Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Thanks for hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Let's get back to some LSU baseball. Man, just a monster series win for the Tigers against Tennessee. Both D1 Baseball and Baseball America moved LSU up to number 2 in the polls behind Texas. And you look at this team, admittedly, like, this is a fault of mine, but I do feel like there is a part of me that needs to be aware of what the fan base is feeling at a given point. I'm looking at my Twitter, I'm checking message boards. I certainly know what my friends and family are thinking. And this is one of the few programs that can certainly go from the programs in big trouble, which we all, you saw a lot of that after game 2, to, wow, look at this. I think we're a favorite for Omaha. Like, how many people that were thinking after Saturday's game, where LSU had kind of been dominated early in the game on Friday, but found a way to win with a couple of errors and then got beat pretty badly in the 8th inning on Saturday, and you're, well, that's going to be 3 years out of Jay Johnson's 4 that you didn't host a regional, because this team's done. You look at the offense, they can't hit. Look at the bullpen, it's terrible. Like, you heard that. That was loud and clear. And then after 20 hours, you look up and you got a team that's 14-7 in the league. That's tied for second. You got an RPI in the top 9. You're ranked second in 2 polls. You're probably going to be the number 2 or 3 national seed in some prognostications this week. And you feel like you've got a couple starters at the front of the rotation that can really pitch, and an offense just broke out, and you won 2 out of 3 against Tennessee. And oh, by the way, you've won 5 of 7 SEC series in the most difficult league in the country. Like, that's how quickly this thing can swing. And there are probably a lot of people that would do this job that wouldn't ever pay attention to anything the fan base says. Just give your opinion and move on. But I think it's kind of my part of my job to kind of understand what people think, what they're feeling, and what I should be talking about in relation to the programs that we cover. And that's how quickly this thing can swing, because around here, we have a tendency to treat baseball games like football games. When baseball games, there are 56 of them, and you're going to lose. Here's something just to file away for the LSU baseball fan. Just file it away. There's a week coming in the next month where LSU is going to lose 2 games. Like, they're going to lose another series. They're not going to go to College Station and win 2 or 3, and then come home and play Arkansas and win 2 of 3, and then go on the road to South Carolina and win 2 of 3. I think they're going to lose one of those series. And I promise the sky will not fall because you lost 2 baseball games in a weekend. It's a process. And this team is good. They have to play better. And I'm grateful around here that we've got a ton of passion and that we do great on a championship curve. And I wrote that at LouisianaSports.net, and I'll say it here. Like, the offense was not good enough and has not been good enough for the last month, but you're facing really, really, really good pitching a lot of the time. And there are pieces to the bullpen that I wish would come along. But there are also some other things that you cannot ignore. You cannot ignore winning 5 of 7 SEC series. You cannot ignore the fact that Cade Anderson and Anthony Inc. are throwing the baseball great. You cannot ignore that Kason Evans and Zach Cowan are completely lights out at the back end of the bullpen. You cannot ignore that this lineup statistically is in the top 5 of the SEC in almost everything outside of home runs. And they hit some home runs this weekend. Milam crushed one. Brown crushed one. Jones still hadn't landed. Hernandez missed by a foot. Like, there are a lot of really good things. And if you're going to throw your hands up and feel like this team has no shot in Omaha because they got swept at Auburn, because Tennessee dictated terms for 2 days, because they couldn't go to Austin and win, because the bullpen got blown up in the 8th inning, like, if you're going to throw your hands up, I would ask you to kind of look around everybody else in the league, not named Texas, who, oh, by the way, is missing their ace. He's been out for 2 weeks and he's not going to pitch the rest of the season. That's a pretty big deal. Like, it's a long season that takes some time and it takes some ups and downs. Every single team in the history of LSU baseball has dealt with ups and downs. It just happens every year. We just react to them viscerally when things go poorly because we want to see it great all the time. It's just not in baseball. It never will be. And so it's just part of it. Right now, LSU's in a great spot. Now, the question is going to be asked because of yesterday, when Kason Evans takes the ball in his first SEC start. And let's be honest, if you watch that first inning, they were hitting lasers all over the place. Lasers. They got hits, drew a walk, put up a 2-spot. Now, Evans held it together and got out of it with a 2-spot, but it didn't look great after that first inning. And then he settled in, and it was lights out. Over that last 5 innings, not a single Tennessee Volunteer reached second base, and he retired 16 of 18. Didn't walk anybody. It was incredible to watch. He was popping the mitt with that 95 to 97 fastball, but his best pitch and what makes him so good is that he can command that changeup, and he can float it just away from the left-hander off. He can land it for a strike, and it makes everything else go. He can spin the breaking ball when he needs to. Fastball's great. Changeup is the key. So you look at Evans, fighting off a sneeze, just can't get it. Like, I have the cough button ready, and I can mute it and sneeze, and then it just won't come out. But it's gone now, so that's good. But you look at Evans, and you look at that start, and your immediate reaction is to go, that's the Sunday starter. Problem solved. You got an ace in Anderson who's throwing it great. You've got Ianson, who really has been good and was really good on Saturday. Then you plug in Kason Evans as your number 3 starter. That's as good a rotation as anybody's got in college baseball. Problem solved. We were wondering if Chase Shore's light was going to come on. It never came on. Evans is the answer. And I just can't go there right now. I can't go there right now. The answer is easy. Because you cannot try to win games without Kason Evans right now, based on the composition of this pitching staff, in my opinion. Hypothetically, Anderson gives you 6 2/3 of great baseball on Friday, and you go to Cowan to slam the door on a 2-run lead, and he does it. But he throws 48 pitches to do it. Well, he may not come back for 2 days. What if Ianson goes out there on Saturday and he gives you 5 1/3, and say Binge comes in and gets the last 2 outs there in the 6th, and you've got 3 outs to go and you've got a 2-run lead? If you're going to tell me with a 2-run lead in the 7th inning that you feel good leaving Kason Evans in the dugout and trying to go save a 2-run lead with the cast of guys that came into the game on Saturday with Schmidt and Rizzi and Primo and Shores and Williams and Fontenot, and you want those guys to try to get those last 9 outs, I can't go there right now. Now, if you lose on Saturday, like LSU did this week, or you blow the doors off somebody on Saturday, great. I'm all for Kason Evans starting that 3rd game. He's prepared to do that. He's proven he can do it. This was not Oral Roberts he threw this game against. This was not Missouri. This was not Oklahoma. Those are all steps forward. This was Tennessee. Excuse me. There is not a lineup significantly better in the country than Tennessee. I'll listen to Georgia. I'll listen to Arkansas, but they're not significantly better. And he dominated them for 5 innings after the first. So he can do this against anybody. Not saying he will every time, but he can. But I'm going to Kason Evans on Saturday if Cowan's burned and I've got a lead. I'm not going to let him sit on the bench and try to let these freshmen or guys that have struggled for a lot of the season finish a game. I'm not doing it. It's about winning games. And when you get a chance to do it, you got to get it done. Now, that brings me to my next point. LSU is a front-running baseball team. What do I mean by that? They need to play from ahead. And when they struggle out of the gates against these great pitchers and get behind, it hamstrings Jay Johnson's ability to go to the best part of LSU's team right now is Zach Cowan and Kason Evans. That's the best thing LSU has. And he can't go to those guys unless he's got a lead until Sunday. So you've got to get a lead, because once you get behind, you're not going to go to those guys. You've done it a couple of times. You did it with Cowan 3 weeks ago. You did it with Cowan on Friday. And it paid off in those two instances. LSU came back and won the game because you held them close. But that's a risky proposition, because the catastrophe is going to Cowan down by 1 and not scoring again. Or he gives up 1 run over 3 innings and you only score 1. And you lose the game and he's burned. So you've got to maximize those guys' time on the mound, which means they need to be out there when you lead. You've got to get runs early. You've got to play from ahead. But I'm glad that Jay Johnson now looks at this and didn't do what he did at Auburn when you had Cowan and Evans ready to go against Auburn, but you started Shores anyway, and you got behind 5-0 by the time Case and Evans came in the game. So that's the plan moving forward. It's not to hold Case and Evans until Sunday as your Sunday starter, because he's the best Sunday starter option you have. He is. He is that. But you've got to go get wins when they present themselves. Now, you get into a regional and you've got to win a game. Hey, I'm all for Case and Evans getting a start in an elimination spot. And you know for sure right now that Case and Evans and Zach Cowan are both capable of starting a game, going 85 to 90 pitches, and doing a great job for 5 or 6 innings or whatever that gets you. So it's not a deal where you've got, hypothetically, we'll go back in time. Matty Ott mainly threw an inning and a third as the closer at LSU. So if you were to get into a postseason situation and try to start him after he had been throwing 20, 30 pitches and say, hey, I need 95, like, you're not going to get that. If you've got a closer that is a 1-inning guy, he's not stretched out. These two guys have been going 3 innings all year, and they've stretched out to 4 and 5 over the last couple of weeks. So you have that available to you. College baseball pitching roles are not as defined as major league pitching roles. For those that have a major league team, you understand it. If you don't, they've got starters who are 4, 5, 6 inning guys. They've got middle relievers who always pitch in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and they've got a closer that pitches in the 9th. That's not the case in college baseball because you don't have that many good pitchers. And for those that are concerned about pitchers number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on this team, fine, reasonable. I don't know anybody that's number 7 is really good. I watch a lot of SEC baseball. I don't know a lot of teams that have a number 7 that they can go to that's going to be a great pitcher. And I certainly don't know a lot of teams whose number 7 has stuff that looks like Maverick Rizzi or Chase Shores. So you look at what those guys did on Saturday. You went to 6 different bullpen arms to try to get 7 outs, and none of them gave you a clean outing. Schmidt walked the only guy he faced. Rizzi walked 2 guys in a third of an inning. Primo gave up a hit in his 1/3 of an inning. Chase Shores gave up 4 runs in an inning. Cooper Williams gave up 2 runs on a hit in a third of an inning, and Grant Fontenot hit a guy in an inning and a third. So I'm not ready to just shove Case and Evans into the Sunday starter role because he looked really good on Sunday. He's got to affect winning more than he needs to be the Sunday starter. So to me, keep it just as it is. And there's a decent chance, because you've already got Cowan and you're not usually going to sweep everybody in 3 close games, that Evans will be available in some game 3s. You only got 3 of them left. So don't upset the apple cart here. Keep your ace bullpen guys in their ace bullpen roles. And if you get to a point on Sunday where you haven't used either Cowan or Evans, start them. Get off to a good start. Let your offense go against the back end of somebody's pitching staff. That's what you saw. Tennessee showed you what happens on Sunday when you get to pitchers number 4, 5, 6, 7 in an SEC arsenal. And that's a good Tennessee pitching staff. You saw Doyle. You saw Phillips. You know what Snead looks like. But once you get to 4, 5, 6, 7, just like at LSU, at Tennessee, well, trouble. That's the case at a lot of places. So just leave it just as it is. That's the way I feel about it. Looking for LSU baseball content in the written form? LouisianaSports.net got stories up each and every day. Right now, my Around the Horn feature, which is a lot of reading. It's a heavy dive into LSU baseball every single Monday morning. If you got some time, want to check it out, I highly recommend you do so, and certainly appreciate y'all for supporting us as you will on LouisianaSports.net. We come back, we'll shift over to the Saints. We talked about their quarterback draft pick. What about the rest of the Saints draft? I'll give you my thoughts on it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. They're right there, airline at Pico, and you've probably never been. You've probably never been to Genesis of Baton Rouge. And that's understandable. They haven't been there all that long, just over 2 years. And Genesis is fairly new to the game. May not be on your list when you think about the type of vehicles you want to drive. A lot of people get into a deal where they usually get the same make and model as the year's update. And you maybe have done that. Why don't you give Genesis a shot? Go by and see them. Experience their service. Experience the drive, that clean, comfortable, stylish cars they've got on the lot. And just see. Maybe for you. It's a luxury experience at a reasonable price. That's the Genesis model. Go by and see them. Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. Genesis of Baton Rouge. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
On LSU baseball talk here on this Monday for very good reason. It's a great weekend for the Fighting Tigers, and they got another big week coming up here. I got a midweek contest coming up. Let's see if I can pull out who that's from. I wrote it yesterday on Southeastern. It is Southeastern. And then you got to go to College Station, and Texas A&M got swept this weekend, but they're playing well, and they played well over the weekend. They just lost 3 run-1 games. We'll talk about that in the next segment. I want to talk Saints draft here. One thing that I need to give a round of applause. The Saints front office made 9 draft selections. Incredible stuff. They did not trade up one time. I got to think that Kellen Moore may have locked Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland in a closet somewhere and made the picks himself. I don't know. But this is a small deviation from the organization's past and what we've come to see from them. And some of the trade-ups have worked. Some of the trade-ups have been disastrous. But they usually did it. In fact, they almost always did it, and they did not do it over the weekend. And what have I said over and over and over again? They got to get younger and cheaper. The only way to get younger and cheaper is to hit on draft picks and find diamonds in the rough in undrafted free agent ranks. And the Saints did everything they could, short of trading back, to get as young and cheap as they could. So I haven't been on since the draft, so I'll quickly kind of run through what I thought of the selections. And once again, nobody, and I mean nobody, is paying me to be an NFL scout. So I'm not dipping in those waters. All I can really analyze is the idea behind the Saints selections. And I'll critique and praise that, and we'll see if the Saints personnel department hits. The draft, as you know, is a crapshoot. But if your idea is sound, that's the first step in making things positive. So you start with Kelvin Banks in the first round. I love the pick. I think it's very sensible. Kelvin Banks was a 5-star recruit, which I know doesn't matter in the NFL, but it proves the talent level that people saw early on. He immediately got to Austin, Texas, and was a left tackle. He was a left tackle for great offenses. He's really big. He moves really well. He's played a ton of football, and by all accounts, I certainly can't know this, but by all accounts, is a wonderful young person. That checks a lot of boxes. I realize the Saints have to continuously sink assets into this offensive line. But you feel like 2 of them are big-time hits. You feel like Fuaga is a hit at left tackle, and you know that McCoy is a hit at center. Ruiz is what he is, and this is the last year of Trevor Penning, and you got to figure out left guard, and you feel like Kelvin Banks is either going to play left guard or kick Penning out of the lineup or over to left guard. But if you hit on this, it's great. And you feel like there's a really high floor for Kelvin Banks. He's big, he's strong, he's played a lot, high-level recruit, high-level college player. This is not as big a flyer as Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. I love the pick. It makes a lot of sense. You took Tyler Shook in the second round. I'm going to talk about Tyler Shook for an entire segment on tomorrow's show. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because that's obviously the most impactful pick here. But I don't want to do it in 3 minutes. I want to do it in 12 minutes, so we'll do that tomorrow. Then in the third round, 71st, you take Vernon Broughton from Texas, defensive lineman. 6'4", 305, spent 5 years at Texas, didn't start until his fifth year. But in some of their biggest games, he made big plays. 2 sacks at Texas A&M, had a sack against Ohio State. I think he slots behind Devon Godshaw at defensive tackle, and you had a guy vouching for him very clearly in the room. I don't need to be in the Saints draft room to know that Bo Davis had something to do with this pick. He coached the man. So you've got a real intimate knowledge of what he's like in the locker room, on the practice field, on the sideline, on the field, with his teammates, what he can do, what he can't do. And you need defensive tackle help. Brian Brzee is a solid pass rusher that's got some work to do in the run-stopping portion of the game, but he's young and cheap. And you bring in Vernon Broughton in the third round, and if he is what his profile would be, which is a guy who's built to stop the run a little bit more, you let him learn from Devon Godshaw, who's made a career out of stopping the run, and he's probably the next piece. Again, you've got to get 4 starters out of this draft. That's the number I've been going with for a month now. You've got to get 4 starters. If that's one of them, that's a really good spot for you to hit. Jonas Sanker, safety from Virginia, the other third-round pick. I thought there was no way they were going to take both third-round picks. That screamed trade back up into the second round, but they stayed and they took another third-round pick there at 93 with Jonas Sanker. He's a really good athlete. In high school, he played running back, quarterback, safety, and basketball. That's pretty good. He made 33 college starts. That's a lot of playing. 17 pass breakups, 273 tackles. I love that number. 13 tackles for loss. That shows me aggressive play at the safety position. And it's a huge need for this team. So you go get a first-team All-ACC safety who was the team defensive MVP, and you've got an aging Tyrann Mathieu. You've got whatever you got with Jordan Howden. You go get Justin Reed, but you need safety play, and you need to get younger and cheaper at safety. Justin Reed is not cheap. Tyrann Mathieu is certainly not cheap. He's certainly not young. Howden is what he is. I don't know if that's a guy you've got big plans for at safety. If that works out, there is a need there, and I like a lot of the profile here of a really good athlete with a lot of tackles and some aggressive play that was the best player on his defense. I like that in Jonas Sanker. Danny Stutzman is somebody we're very familiar with here in the SEC. He was the linchpin of the Oklahoma defense the last couple of years. Now, it wasn't a great defense, but he was massively productive for 4 years. He's big and physical at 6'4", 243. He is 9th all-time at Oklahoma in tackles. 9th all-time at Oklahoma at tackles. That is a ton of production at one of the best linebacker schools in college football history. He had 37 starts. He was a consensus All-American. He was a finalist for the Butkus Award. Look, 376 tackles and 36 tackles for loss kind of speaks for itself. Now, being productive at the college level doesn't necessarily automatically translate to the NFL level, and some teams like to go a little bit more upside, a little bit more measurables. This is a production pick. It's a 4th-round pick. A lot of those don't work. But the thought process is pretty sound because some point the clock's going to run out on Demario Davis at some point. And Pete Werner is a solid player. He's not a great player. And you signed Willie Gay for a year as a stopgap, and there's just not a lot of proven options at linebacker. While you've been able to just pencil in Demario Davis game after game after game, year after year after year, all-pro, 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 Pro Bowl, like great player. Eventually the clock runs out. Somebody's got to be waiting in the wings. Are you anxious about replacing a 4-time All-Pro with a 4th-round pick? Probably not. But you've got a 4th-round pick, and you take a chance that a guy who was insanely productive in college can translate some of that to the NFL. I like the pick of Danny Stutzman there. Good idea in the 4th round. Quincy Riley, a guy that we talked to Mark Annis about in the first hour. That's a guy at Louisville who is aggressive and will make plays on the football. Mark said it in the first hour. Like, he may get burned here or there, but he may burn that offense as well. And I'd like a guy who can make some plays and maybe teach him to be a little bit more conservative. The old saying is, I'd rather say whoa, not go. Like, you don't want a guy that's just passive and teach, hey, you got to go. Like, you want somebody that's 90-0 that's willing to go make some plays and teach him at times, hey, let's back off on this instance. It's a 4th-round pick, 131st overall, good player at Louisville, all-conference player at Louisville. We'll see. You've certainly got a need there with no Adebo, with no Lattimore. You've got Alontae Taylor. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry. You need guys to come in the secondary, so you take Quincy Riley from Louisville there. The 6th-round pick I actually love. I think this could really be a hit. You take Devin Neal, the running back from Kansas. He's a Lawrence native, a career Kansas Jayhawk, played 49 games for Kansas. He had 760 carries, ran for 4,343 yards, averaged almost 6 yards per carry, had 49 touchdowns, 77 catches for almost 10 yards a catch. He's the all-time leading rusher in Kansas history. He's got the school record for rushing touchdowns, scrimmage touchdowns, 100-yard games. He's 5'11", 213, so reasonable size. And if you've got a pick in the backfield like the Saints do, who can't stay healthy and goes through one drill and can't practice for a month and a half, you might need to look elsewhere for help. And I think you've got a guy in Devin Neal who might be able to be the next guy after Kamara and certainly can help you in the passing game because he's proven that at the college level. He's very comfortable doing that. And I feel like you've got a real chance for a hit here in the 6th round. This is the type of pick that is why you don't have to reach for a running back early on and you can find one that's really productive later on. I know what the NFL looked like this past year. I know that Saquon Barkley was maybe the biggest reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I get it. But not everybody's got Saquon Barkley. You can get a really functional running back in the later rounds, in the undrafted free agent ranks. We've seen it from the Saints, and none more famous than Pierre Thomas. But I like this pick of Devin Neal. I think it's got a real chance to work. You go get a tight end in Molokai Madival from UCLA, who did a lot of blocking early in his career, blossomed in his senior year as a pass catcher. You're taking a flyer there on a position that you've kind of got sewn up right now because of the Juwan Johnson contract that I didn't love. But you take a flyer there at tight end. I didn't know if they would go that route. I don't know that I would have gone that route. And then you go get Fadil Diggs, an edge player from Syracuse, started his career at Texas A&M, went and followed his defensive line coach up to Syracuse where he was the defensive coordinator. I think that's a guy who's got some real pass rushing chops that if you hit on the one trait there in the 7th round, hit on that one trait that's pass rusher, that's a functional player. And you feel like you've probably missed on Isaiah Foskey, but maybe you hit on a flyer there with Diggs. I like the idea of an elite trait in the 7th round that may be a diamond in the rough. I'm okay in the middle round with Stutzman, who's all productivity. Elite trait, I like that in the last round. The one issue I had with the Saints draft, I love that they took 9 picks. I probably, instead of tight end, would have gone wide receiver in the 7th round. You're short on wide receivers, in my opinion, and I'd like to maybe take a flyer there. But that was my only complaint. I liked basically everything else that I saw. I'm not here to tell you who's making the roster, who's this great on film. That's not where my bread's buttered. But yeah, I thought we've criticized the Saints front office a lot. I was glad they made all 9 picks, and I can see where they're coming from on all of them. So I thought a pretty good draft for New Orleans. Now we see what they can get out of it. And I've told you this, and I've told you this, and I've told you this. And I'll stick to this. I'll keep telling you, and I'll remember that I've said this. They need 4 starters out of this draft. You took 9 picks. I need 4 starters. That's not even 50%. You can get that. I think that's success. All right, that's our look at the New Orleans Saints draft. Let's come back. A little SEC baseball update from the weekend. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bit of breaking news here on this Monday, and we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs. Gulf Coast Office Products. Breaking news out of Starkville, Mississippi in the last 10 minutes. Chris Lemonis fired as the head baseball coach at Mississippi State, a man who led the team to the school's first national championship ever, is now without a job 5 years later. And this was inevitable. I didn't think it would happen in season a month ago. I thought they would probably hang on until the end of the year and then make that move, but they decide it's time to do it. And it had to happen. Here are their conference records since dogpiling in Omaha. 9-21, 9-21. Last year, 17-13. They probably should have hosted a regional last year. I thought the metrics dictated they should have. They did not. But they went to a regional and got bounced. And they're 7-14 this year. By my count, since the College World Series, that's 42-59 in SEC play. And that's just not near good enough. They built that palace in Starkville to host regionals and super regionals. And he has not hosted either in what will now be 4 straight seasons. And on top of that, you were the worst team in the SEC the year after you won the national championship. You finished 6th in a 7th-team West the year after that. Last year, 3rd, and didn't get out of your regional. And you're 7-14 this year, and they're just not very good at anything. They were atrocious pitching the baseball in 22 and 23. Last year, they pitched it much better. But you had Jurangelo Sanja in the rotation, who was a first-round pick, and you should have been better than you were, and you weren't. And this year, they don't hit it great. They don't pitch it great. Came to Baton Rouge and got swept. They lost 2 out of 3 to Auburn. It's just been a mess for Mississippi State. And so this had to happen. This is one of the top 10 jobs in college baseball. Let's see if I can just off the top of my head, definitely would rather have that job than Mississippi State. LSU, Texas, Florida, Texas A&M, Arkansas. Ole Miss is close. I wouldn't go Tennessee yet. They're the best program right now as far as consistent winning, but still that fan base is getting used to baseball. So yeah, it's a top 10 job, maybe a top 7 job in college baseball. And you got to be better than what they've been. And this had to happen. So I don't have a great idea of what they may be looking for here. I don't know if Brian O'Connor would listen from Virginia. I think the Tony Vitello ship has sailed for everybody. You look at Tennessee's building a new facility. They're winning like crazy. He's recruiting like crazy. He's got the NIL budget he needs. And once LSU came and went, and then Texas came and went, and then Texas A&M came and went, I think that's pretty much it for Tennessee. I think he's locked in there as long as he wants to be the head coach there. So I don't know where they might head, but that's an elite job. There's no question about it. That I can't wait to see that facility one day. I haven't seen it just yet, but they just haven't been any good since they won the College World Series. They just haven't. And it's interesting because you look at what Ole Miss and Mississippi State have been since they won championships, and they just never found it again. Now, Ole Miss has got a good team this year, and they look like a regional host right now. But any weekend can jump up and bite you in this league, and has for everybody but Texas to this point. But it'll be fascinating to see who Mississippi State hires because you have just a few permanent opponents every year. 2 of them, I think. There are 2. LSU's got Texas A&M and Mississippi State. So LSU's going to play Mississippi State in this current format every single year. And so you look at who Mississippi State hires, that matters. And oh, by the way, there are some pretty good players over there at Mississippi State. Ace Reese is one of them. Does anybody jump in the transfer portal? That's what we do when Jim Slosnagel left A&M and they all jumped in the portal. Everybody's going, well, who can they get from Texas A&M? Is Caden Kent coming? Can they get Laviolette? Oh my gosh, is Grohovic going to transfer? And that's what we have to do now. And you got guys that are willing to play in Starkville. They probably make the 5-hour drive south to play in Baton Rouge. So I'm not gonna do any tampering here. But they've got some good players over there at Mississippi State. They just don't have a very good team, and now they're without a coach. Their pitching coach is going to take things the rest of the way for the Dogs, who again are 7-14 and very, very much on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament. They do have 3 games with Missouri, who is just unfathomably terrible. I can't imagine a Southeastern Conference team going 0-21, but I guess I don't have to imagine it because it's literally happened right in front of me. But they've got those 3 games, and everybody's just, A&M plays them later, and everybody's just going, well, that's 3 wins. You got to get probably to 13 or 14 wins if you're Mississippi State, and you've only got 7. So you probably got to go 9-2 or 7-2 over the last 9. Not looking likely, so Chris Lemonis will be out of a gig at Mississippi State for his career, 232 and 135. That's a .632 winning percentage, but again, under 500 in league play, and that includes 2 20-10 seasons, and still 82 and 89 over the course of his 6 seasons. That's a .480 winning percentage. That is not going to get regionals into Dudy Noble, so they got to make a change and make sure that starts happening more often than it has. So Mississippi State moves on from Chris Lemonis in Starkville. All right, we'll come back. Close it out. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and the Baton Rouge Clinic bring you the Dreams Come True Radiothon. Dreams Come True is an organization designed to grant dreams for children with life-threatening illnesses and their families. The Dreams Come True Radiothon is presented today by Service Chevrolet. Donate today at 1045ESPN.com.
Champ in the Bayou Ford chat, always one of my biggest fans, says, hear me out, State, Andy Cannizaro. I don't think they're going to do that. Although Louisville did hire Bobby Petrino back, So
this seems like the Will Wade situation, too, for LSU. Don't think that's going to happen.
You just don't love the idea of hiring a guy back that was texting a mistress from the dugout during games. It's just not exactly what you're looking for there. Mississippi State will have a decision on their hands. That's interesting stuff there from Starkville. All right, we got any take it or leave it's back?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, first one, Tony Vitello will answer phone calls from Starkville. Take it or leave it.
I will leave that, as I said. I think he's got it figured out there in Knoxville. They're building that new stadium, and he's got an NIL base. I still don't think Tennessee fans really know what's going on in college baseball. I think they're very new to this scene, but he's got that thing humming, and I think he's gotten it to a point where there's no point in moving on. It's kind of like Bruce Pearl at Auburn. Auburn's not a basketball school, but once you get it to a point where you're humming, like why would Bruce Pearl jump to go to Arkansas, who's got a much richer history, but his program's in better shape?
All right, next one here. The Lakers lost on Sunday. They are now down 3-1 in that series. The Lakers losing in 5 to the Timberwolves. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
This purple cup right here on the desk has watched the exact same amount of NBA playoffs as I have.
Well, here's the thing.
To the second.
I was not. I was pretty certain you hadn't watched. I thought you maybe watched 1 or 2 games, but either way, still the point remains that the Lakers went out and got Luka Doncic, and it seems that they're going to lose to a Timberwolves team that overall is not as good talent-wise, but. The Lakers, they seem to find a way these days with LeBron.
I mean, at a certain point, it's. I realize LeBron's still. I don't have to watch to know that LeBron's still playing at an incredible level, and Luka's one of the best 5 players in the world. But they haven't been that good in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So how are we feeling about that bubble championship?
It's not a real championship.
Okay.
If that's how you want to put it. I think it's considered by most people to not really. And funnily enough, it perfectly fits the title of a Mickey Mouse championship because it was literally played in Disney. So, pretty much most people consider it that. So, Moving on here, the Bucks, Damian Lillard is staying in the NBA playoffs. Torn left Achilles. The Bucks still have a chance, though, in the playoffs. Take it or leave it.
I will leave that. He's
Leave it alone.
one of the best primetime scorers and shooters in the NBA. One of the things that keeps me the most in touch with the NBA is sports trivia every Tuesday night, which, by the way, we'll be back at Pizza by Rones tomorrow. Because I look at stats all the time with the NBA, and like Lillard is always in like the shooting statistics, the three statistics, attempted, made, all that kind of stuff. That's just a guy that you can't reasonably move quickly without.
All right, last one here. Devin Williams has been taken out as the closer for the New York Yankees. For right now, quote from Aaron Boone right there. He has been pretty terrible.
Yes, he has.
For the Yankees. But seeing a former Brewer failing, take it or leave it.
I don't care what he does in New York, so I'll take it, whatever.
I'll take it.
It's all about what he does in Milwaukee, which was usually pretty good against us. But he did choke last year against the Mets and gave up the Alonso homer. So that was great to watch. So
it was.
That's it for take it or leave it. I learned something last week that many, many, many of you listening are very well aware of. Trips to the beach with very young children, in my case, a 3.5-year-old and a 7-week-old, very physically demanding. Like, it was a lot of fun. Like, we had a blast. I would not call it relaxing. And trust me, I'm not complaining about this. I'm merely listing out things that were physically demanding, like getting up at 5:45 or 6 o'clock to give a bottle, then going to play 18 holes of golf, then coming back, lugging massive ice chests and tables and toys and chairs and umbrellas out to the beach, bringing kids up to go to the potty because they don't want to get in the freezing cold water, dealing with the baby and holding him. I set the Florida record. Guinness was out.
The land speed record?
Now, I set the record for most pitches thrown on a Florida beach over the last week. It was approximately 9,000 to Myers.
What is the thing you get when your arm? You have dead arm now, Hunt?
No, I'm an elite BP thrower.
Okay.
We're still having a rubber arm. But
arm.
Myers said two things the entire week. Dad, I want to play baseball, and Dad, can we go home? That was. I got asked, did Myers like the beach? I was like, he likes to play baseball on the beach, but that's all he wants to do. And he hit 9,000 baseballs. And then I got to trudge through the sand to get every single one of them and bring them back.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And then you're sunburned, and you got to throw kids in the pool. All of it. Incredibly fun. Really no complaints. I just was surprised every day when I put the head on pillow. I was like, that's the most physically demanding thing I've done in months. Like, and that's every day. And then you got to get up and do it again. So the 7-week-old on the beach, it took an army, but we got it done. We bought this. I told you about it. We were looking at like these tents.
Yeah.
And I was looking at like $300. Like, this, we're not doing it. And then we found one for $25. So we got it. He hated it. He used it one time, and then we had to hold it the rest of the time. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad to be back, and appreciate y'all for holding it down while I was gone. And it was a fun show today. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. Talked a lot of LSU baseball, talked a lot of Saints draft, talked a little LSU football portal. It's all wherever you find your sound on the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you every single Monday by Gulf Coast Office Products. That's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, and every single new Genesis purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on every new purchase. That's as good as you're going to find in the industry. How about this? Another perk of a new Genesis purchase. 3 years of complimentary maintenance on that vehicle. And it's valet. They can't make it any easier on you. What I mean when I say valet, well, it's exactly that. They come to you, they take your vehicle back to the dealership and handle whatever maintenance needs to be done, oil changes, wiper blades, wiper fluid, air filter, the whole deal. You get a loaner, you're on about your day, then they bring the car right back to you. Can't be any easier than that. They're on Airline at Pico. You can stop on by. It's a gorgeous facility with a wonderful staff, or you can start your process online at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, Airline at Pico, and online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.